Now you're ready.
Okay. Good morning once again, and my name is Mike Pahsetopah. Can you say Pahsetopah? Pahsetopah. Good. I'm an Osage, Cherokee, Muskogee Creek, Ute American Indian. I'm dressed in part of my fancy dance clothes because that's what I do a lot is dance, but I also do storytelling and plain Indian sign language. And I'm going to start off with a little bit of sign language first to get you acquainted with it a little bit, because when I begin to tell the stories, I'll be using the hand talk. You say, what is hand talk? Well, let me describe it like this. Years ago, way back there, our Indian people all had a language. Let's say one would say Heshje, and one over here would say Hawe. Well, they were greeting one another, but there was a language barrier. They couldn't understand one another's language or dialect. So it was formed then that they used their hands to talk. So if I was to say to you, good morning, I would make the sign for morning, which the east is behind me. I would take my hand like this, symbolizing the sun. It comes up in the east, and then I would finish with a sign for good. Can you do that? Son? That's good morning in sign language, so you already did it. Now, if it was noon, we would do this. That would be noontime. What do you do when it's noon? Lunchtime, right? This is a sign for eat. This is a sign for water. This is a sign for drink. And that's was some of the basics of sign language. Now, I've been working on a book, and I'm eating this water. And I came up with a new idea that's going to make it easy for everyone to learn it. And next year, the book will be out, and you'll probably get to see it in the libraries. Let's say there's an imaginary line that goes right from the top of my head all the way to the bottom to the tip, just like this, okay? And then if I was to turn sideways, you would still see that imaginary line. Okay, so in this, and then there's one that goes crossways, right here. So when you're looking at a person and you're knowing whereabouts that hand needs to be in that sign language, because there's similar signs, and if we do the wrong sign, it kind of messes up the communication. So, this is time. When I looked at the clock a while ago and I knew it was time for this presentation to start, started here. This is a symbol for time. Now, if it's morning back here, and I'm looking at starting in the afternoon, then this finger here, this right hand, is the action hand. And this is how you set the pace or to watch time. Now, if I was to say how old you are, or if somebody was to ask me how old, a long time ago we used to count by winters. And winters was like this. And sometimes in winter, it does what? It snows. Now, if it's a hot day, we do this. That means the heat. Okay? And what happens when you get hot? Sometimes you get tired. Really easy. It's tired. So all of this body language, body movement, hand positioning and stuff is a simple way of communicating. And so I'm trying to bring this all back to our time for the next generation. That's what my dad always said. You're responsible to pass this on. So that's what I'm doing today, of showing you stories and the hand signs working together. So I'm going to play a song to get started from my flute and to get all relaxed, and then we'll get right into the stories. That means talking with hands. You touch your hands like that. And the words. They say a long time ago that the animals could talk. At that time, man wasn't here. It was just the animals. And so there was one animal that was given rule and charge over all of the animals. And his name was Nokozi. Can you say Nokozi? Nokozi means bear. Bear. He was big. He had sharp claws and sharp teeth. And many of the animals feared him. When they seen Nokozi, boy, they would hide. Maybe behind a tree, maybe behind a rock. They were scared of him. And so, at that time, it was said that the animals were unhappy. Sounds hard. There were some animals that preferred it to be nighttime. And this group of animals wanted it to be daytime. So you had two groups here. At that time, it had been said that the animals would all come together in a big circle around a fire for a council meeting. And there it was going to be brought to the attention of Nokozi to settle the matter. So at that time, Chilokchu, which means ground squirrel, he was much like an attorney. And he became very confident as he walked, thinking. Thoughts are always important first. So he began to walk around that fire. And finally, he stopped. And he turned and he pointed at Woodco. Who is Woodco? Woodco is raccoon. The one that has that tail with the stripes. Woodco was startled at Chilokchu pointing at him, that he almost took off and left. But he stayed. Then once again, Chilokchu went around that fire. Then he said, I propose that day and night be equally divided. All of the animals out there agreed. And nod their head, yes, yes, son. And so, in the back, Nokozi let out a growl. What happens when Nokozi growls? A lot of animals start hiding and getting scared. So that night, around that fire, it was settled that day and night would be equally divided. At the end of that meeting, all the animals began to go to their homes. And Ground Squirrel, Chulokchu, was walking out, and he came right by Nosy. And at that time, Nosy dropped his claw with a loud growl, leaving 4 long wounds on Ground Squirrel's back. Among my people, they say that's how Ground Squirrel got the stripes on his back. So there's always stories that related to things to depict and to answer why things are the way they are. And then stories too were for fun, for enjoyment. Everybody say, but oh! Right. That is a sign for good. You like that story? Okay, here we go. Another one. This is an Osage story. In sign language, when we say Osage, we do this. Why? Because Osages once shaved their head. So they had like a mohawk haircut. And at that time, that's how they were recognized. Different ones that had characteristics about them. But when you seen them, you knew what kind of Indian they were. Well, it was said at this time that all of the Osages had chosen a life symbol. A life symbol is a symbol just like at your school you might be known over here as the Sandites, another school, the Eagles, things like that. A life symbol, in this case, was an animal, a majestic animal. And so all of these different clans of Osages had chosen that this one group, they lagged behind. And so their leader was going to lead them in search for a symbol. And they walked through the woods, over the hills, looking. Well, all that was left at that time was coyote, got the little pointed ears, long nose, bushy tail, and skunk. It's got that stripe, big fluffy tail, and it smells. So they said, hey, we don't want to be known as no skunk or no coyote. So they began to make their journey. The leader, he looked high and low. He listened, maybe hoping to hear and see an animal. Finally, as he was walking, he walked into a spider web. And that spider web covered him all over his face, his body. He became annoyed. This comes out, his eyes, he was just angry. And so what he did then was he looked around and oh, behold, he seen a spider. And he pointed at that spider. He said, you little black thing, what are you doing up there? And why are you on this trail? The spider didn't say anything. So once again, the Osage leader spoke and said it again. Little black thing, what are you doing there on this trail? And at that time, the little spider, he spoke. He said, this is my home. I live here. Why are you coming through my home? So the Osage leader, he said, we are looking for a life symbol. And the spider lifted his voice up. I can imagine a little bitty tiny voice. He said, why not choose me as your life symbol? The Osage leader turned. This is a sign for faith. He didn't let that spider see his face, but behind it, he was smiling, kind of laughing a little bit, and so was all of those behind him. Finally, he turned around, looking back at that spider. He said, why should we choose you as a life symbol? And that spider said this, I never leave here. I stay right here. Everything comes to me that I need. So choose me as your life symbol. And so that day it was determined that they would take that spider as a symbol, a life symbol. And this went on for a long time, that became part of our oral history. And many times during those days that the young girls would have that little mark on them in memory of when they, years ago, were looking for a life symbol. Everybody say, ha. That doesn't mean like make fun, but that's one way of saying yes. Good story. Okay, now, this is a symbol for day. Can you do that? Day. This is a symbol for night. Okay, sometimes seasons. So you have spring, summer, fall, winter. Sometimes they're determined by the moons. How many of those moons? That's why some stories go many, many moons ago. And sometimes they'll say many years ago. So moons, years, winters, all of those things is how they would look at time. And again, the symbol for time is this. This hand here is always the action hand. So if I was to say, let's go over here. And so this would be the sign for walk. Okay? If we said to sit, this is a sign for sit. Sit. This is a sign for stand. There's a lot of signs we can learn with one finger. Okay? So this is man. Let's say a little girl. The sign for this, a girl, is the symbol for long hair, right here. And if she's small, it would then, you would, where the height is right there. Now, if it's an older woman, then maybe an elder, this sign here would be added to it. It means she was a grandmother. Now, to say brave, that she was brave, there's one symbol that looks very similar to this, and this means ready. I'm ready to go. Okay. Now for brave, it's this. I'm brave. This is no. No. This is yes. So when you're not scared, what you want? Brave. All right. Now, to give something, you use this hand almost like a wave, but it goes 3 times. 1, 2, 3. That means I give you, and whatever it is that you're giving. Maybe it's water. Water. I'm coming up with new signs because this sign language goes so far back that things have evolved, things have progressed here, so we have to learn new signs. So yesterday I was telling my wife how to sign for hamburger. And so this is bread. This is how Indians say bread in sign language. Okay, it's like a little there. Let's let that go over. All right. So you have two breads. Open it up. Meat would be this. You put that on there, close it up. This sign for eat. I don't know how to sign for McDonald's unless we just say big M. Might still work. But there's things that we have now, like cell phones. A long time ago, if we was to say, to call somebody, we would use this, and we would say their name. That was way back before telephones, cell phones. That was the word that we used, call. Now, I've seen some people before say, I'm going to call you. They would use this to symbolize a cell phone. So all of this little modern technology, I'm going to eventually implement it to where, we can just flow in this. Now, I'm going to see what story we want to go into next. Okay, this next one is a Cherokee story. And this story here is how Possum got his tail. Everybody here knows what a possum looks like, right? Well, they say a long time ago that possum had a bushy tail. And he was happy about his tail so much that he would sing. This is a symbol for sing. Okay? He would sing songs about his beautiful tail, and he would just skip down the road singing songs. I mean, he was so happy about it. Meanwhile, over here in the grass, watching, was Rabbit. The rabbit wasn't so happy about Possum's beautiful bushy tail. And in fact, it bothered him. That he said, it's not fair that Possum has that beautiful bushy tail and I have this little short stubby tail. Well, they say a long time ago, Rabbit, he too had a long, beautiful bushy tail. But what happened then was that he was a trickster. He liked to play gags and tricks all the time on the other animals. And he picked on the wrong one. And who was that? Bear. The bears always tend to be a little grumpy. And so one day he played a trick on Bear. And Bear was chasing him. I mean, they were going fast. And finally, Rabbit was just getting ready to jump into that hole in the ground when Bear grabbed his tail and leaving Rabbit with that little short, stubby, white tail. And from that time, he just didn't care for other animals having long, beautiful, bushy tails. It was at this time that there was going to be a big dance. This is a sign for dance. And all of the animals would be gathered together in a circle. But it was customary that Rabbit would go to each one's home and invite them to be there at the dance. So the first one on his list was Possum. So he went to Possum's home. He knocked on his door. And Possum just kind of ignored it. So Rabbit was patient, kept knocking. Finally, Possum got up and he went to his door. And there stood Rabbit smiling. He says, I'm inviting you to the big dance. Will you be there? Possum said, no, I'm not going to go. We'll stay home. Come on, Possum. Possum, when he talked, he kind of squinted his eyes, like that. Kind of smile. So finally, Rabbit convinced him. Until Possum said, yes, I'll be there. So, Rabbit took it one step further. He said, I'm going to invite Cricket. It was a little bitty bug whom the Cherokees called the barber. He liked to cut hair. Well, he said, I'm going to send him over, and he's going to groom your hair on your tail and wrap it with a red cord. When he's finished, he'll leave. So Possum agreed. Time passed. About that time he heard a noise at the door, you know, that little sound that the little crickets make. And so he opened the door and let him in, and Possum lay down on the ground. While he was down, he fell asleep. Time passed, and during that time, Cricket went to work quickly, and he gnawed all of that beautiful bushy hair on Possum's tail till it was as smooth as my finger. Then he quickly wrapped it up and was finished. He woke Possum up. He said, I'm leaving. He left. It was getting late in the evening, and in the distance, it's a sign to hear. He could hear the laughter of the animals as they were dancing. And finally he said, it's time for me to go, make my way to the dance. When he arrived at the dance, just like Rabbit had promised, of him having the best seat at the dance, he put him there and he told him, he said, you know, if you come to this dance, you can have the best seat so that when the animals come through, they'll see your beautiful bushy tail and tell you how beautiful it is. So that's why he went. And so when he gets there, he sees all the animals dancing. Rabbit says, come on, dance. The boy, old Possum, boy, he was just leaping in the air. His feet were moving, almost just like you'd be seeing me right now. He was really dancing. He was spinning. He was twirling. And finally, he looked over here and he saw a bear laying down laughing. He looked over here and he seen deer. The deer was just laughing. So finally, he said, they're just enjoying my beautiful bushy tail. And then all of a sudden, he could see his shadow because the moon was full. It was shining through the trees. And then the fire, that when he looked, seeing his shadow, he noticed that his beautiful bushy tail was gone. And so he quickly laid on the ground, kind of folded his arms, squinted his eyes real tight, and smiled. Today we call that playing possum. But this story was told to explain how he got his tail. Everybody say, "Whoa!" Well, that means thank you. All right, now I have another story to tell. And so you'll have to really pay attention because after I tell this one here, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. See if I can scoot this back a little bit. Now, I brought different items here. But sometimes in my stories, I'll present them the way that they're taught by the people, their people. Some would use a drum, give it a roll. The boys and girls at that time knew that that meant it's storytelling time. To where others, just depending again on the story, they would know already without having to say, okay, kids, together, make a circle, it's storytelling time, and be real quiet. They didn't even have to do that. They could stand, and they already knew. Some would use the turtle service rattle, and that also meant it was storytelling time. And among my Osage people, we would we call the stories wiggies, and the storyteller would stand with like this. Just a simple stance. He would hold that fan up close to him. And that body language, they already knew the protocol, the order, how those stories were told. So again, these stories usually are presented in that way. And then there's some that may use a flute. Now if you listen to the flute music enough, it'll really calm you and relax you. You might even go to sleep. That's why I don't play too much flute, and I don't want you to go to sleep. And this is a river cane flute. Okay, well this story here comes up from like Wyoming area, where it's real beautiful. They have waterfalls. They have mountains with snow on it. And it was said that long ago, all of the buffalo began to disappear. But one herd came together and they began to travel west because they had heard that there was a land that had lots of green grass and lots of water to drink. So they headed in that direction, traveling many days, many nights. They were tired, but they continued on that journey. Meanwhile, in this land, there was a big river of water. And there, the turtles were playing, swimming, having fun. And finally, the water began to shake. So, Turtle Leader rose up and he told two turtles, go up, look around, and come back to me and tell me what you see. So those two went up. They looked around, didn't see anything, went back down and reported to Turtle Leader. So a little bit later, the water began to do that again. So this time, Turtle Leader said to himself, I'm going to go up there and look. So he went up quickly. He looked around this way, and about that time, there was a big buffalo getting a drink. That buffalo had big horns. He was huge. So Turtle was a little bit annoyed. And he was sitting there looking at this buffalo. He was drinking their water. Finally, Turtle went and spoke to that big buffalo. He said, Buffalo, what are you doing here in the land of the turtles? Buffalo ignored. Boy, he was really drinking his water. And finally, he came up. He was looking at that turtle. The turtle said, I said, what are you doing here? And this man of the turtles, you know, turtles can move kind of slow. And the buffalo said, we had heard about this land. We traveled many days, many moons to get here. We're tired, we're hungry, and we're thirsty. Turtle said, no, we have to go. But that buffalo, he wasn't going to listen to what the little turtle said. So Turtle turned to those two turtles back there, like they might have been standing where these two chairs are. He said, this buffalo, he won't leave. And so they came up with a plan. And his plan came as a challenge, like a race. So he went back over and he told Buffalo, he said, I challenge you to a race to the end of this river. The first one there gets all of this water and all of the green grass on those mountains and hills. This is a sign for mountain. And so Buffalo, he accepted that challenge. So Turtle said, come back here in the morning. Morning bird will fly up, sing his song, and that will be our sign to go. So for now, take your herd over, get your rest, come back here. And so the buffalo took his herd, they went away to sleep, and the turtles, all the turtles came out, and they returned to their home. Nighttime passed quickly. Soon it was time for them all together. Over here on this side of the river, the buffaloes. Over here on this side, the turtles. And there was thousands and thousands of turtles. Turtle lined up. Buffalo beside him. Morning bird flew up. The race was on. Buffalo quickly lunged with all of his weight and power. Buffaloes are strong. And so he got out in front. Meanwhile, over here, Turtle, he went underneath. He was swimming. Buffalo got confident. He said, there's no way that little bitty turtle can outswim me. He had no more said that when right up in front of him jumps Turtle out of the water, smiling big, taunting him, and he went back into the water. Buffalo said, there's no way that little bitty turtle's going to beat me. I'm going to swim faster. And he did. Well, he was really going down that river. He could see that finish line up ahead. Finally, he looked over his shoulder back there, and he didn't see that turtle. He said, there's no way that little bitty turtle's going to get. And all of a sudden, waving at him, went back under the water. And that done it right there. He swam with everything that he had inside of him. He was moving. He was just about ready to cross that finish line when on the other side was Turtle, smiling big and waving. And that day, the turtles got to keep the river and all of the green grass. So you tell me, how did that little bitty turtle beat that big old buffalo? Who wants to take a guess first?
Because they are very fast in the water.
Turtles are good swimmers. Good answer. Anybody else?
They're the fastest swims.
Turtles can really swim. They're faster in the water than they are in walking. Okay, right there.
Buffaloes have
tell you how that turtle won that race?
No.
Every time a turtle came up smiling and waving, it was a different turtle. They tricked that buffalo. That's what we call the winged Indian trick. But he got it. Okay, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for coming to the library today. I hope you enjoyed the stories. You learned something from them. Anybody have any questions? Right there.
My Uncle John, he has horses,
Mm-hmm.
and I was there helping him with the horses,
Mm-hmm.
and he said one of the horses' nose and followed every trick, and
Betty, what'd that horse do?
nothing.
He did nothing. Yeah, there's a lot of things that people can do with animals. The animals, if you got a good way, and very gentle and nice, animals will be the same.
Could you tell them about your outfit? I'm curious about what you're wearing.
I'm wearing my part of my fancy dance clothes whenever I dance. A lot of times I wear feathers and a headdress, and the fancy dance started in Oklahoma, and I've been doing them since I was 3 years old. I've been dancing 62 years now. I got moccasins, Cheyenne moccasins on. This is goat hair. We wear the goat hair because it is said that the goat is sure-footed. So when we're dancing, we have the intricate footwork and movements. That's all, we have stability and structure. And so when we're out here, we're not sliding around and looking sloppy. Everything's all, precision. And then this has depicts, for me, who I am. Okay. This right here is a symbol of a buffalo hoof. This is a symbol of 4 hills for Pahsetopah, Osage word. My great-great-grandfather was named Pahsetopah Shampanaji. That meant 4 buffalo bulls at a distance, the humps on their back, vertical. Shampanaji means standing dark. It almost was like a silhouette, like in the evening time when you look and the sun's going down, you can see that pretty sunset, but everything else is kind of like shadows. And so that's what our last name meant. My great-grandmother retained the Pahsetopah. And so that's what our last name is. And so that's it in that. The colors we just use for that it can be seen, and this kind of material here is very light. It's satin. The fringe here, everything has movement when I'm dancing. It just shows more action. These are arm bustles. The beadwork was all special made. It has the 4 hills too on that. The Morning Star crosses. We put the bling on there today. It just moves with the time, showing that our culture is still advancing and moving with it. So basically, this is how I paid for myself to dance in. All right. Thank you.